And we're rolling. We are rolling. So today we're going to cover some of the, gosh, there's so much. We'll see how much we can get in. I want to first talk about those three big planets that we've been having intense conjunctions with this year, Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto, because we've not seen the end of it yet. And then we're going to get into some crazy things with Saturn and a square to Uranus, but we'll talk about that in another one. So I am going to share my screen and show you chart of United States for a moment. And then I'm going to, I just want you to have this in your mind just for something to look at. How should I begin with this? Actually, let me, I want to show you the transits, what's going on today. That'll be better. Okay, let's look at this. So right now we can see up here in the top of the chart, and it's just because I ran this at, 15 minutes ago. Don't worry about where these rising signs and all that out. It's just, again, based on my time. But this is interesting. If you note this, if you didn't know what time I ran this, if you just look for the sun, you should know that it's late in the day, close to sunset, because the sun is here about ready to set. All right, what did she say? What's up? Remember, this is a map of the heavens. And on the left side, if you're looking at it, which would be over here where it says 8 degrees Taurus, that's, where your rising sign would be. That's the east side, the rising sign. The sun would rise in the east. So if I ran this chart at 7 this morning, the sun would be over there. But I ran it at 4:30 this afternoon, and within the hour, it's going to set. So you should see it over there in the 7th house, getting ready to set. So this is a map of how these things go. All right, now I got a lot of windows here. I want to show you, which one first? Which one first? All right, let's just go into this. And then I think I have to stop share and reshare, I believe. Yeah, okay. So, Jupiter. Now check this out. This is written kind of fancy, but this is supposed to be a half circle up top here and then a cross. Now this is interesting. I'll mention that in a minute here. So the Jupiter archetype represents our desire to expand and grow, to make progress and improve our lives. It is philosophical and aspirational, and about searching for meaning and significance. It's large. Remember, it's the largest planet, so it's going to magnify or enlarge or shine light on anything it's close to. In its, let's see, Jupiter rules the sign of Sagittarius and Pisces. The symbol, is the half circle of the soul rising beside the cross of matter. Now, just keep that in mind and keep that symbol. You might want to write it down on yourself. Don't do it, this little goofy little thingy here, but just draw that as a half moon and then draw a plus. And then you'll see that that moon is just right sitting there on the outside of that plus. So this is important when we, wonder that these symbols represent certain esoteric beliefs. It's just fascinating. So, the symbol is the half circle of the soul rising beside the cross of matter. Jupiter represents the urge to grow and create a meaningful life. It takes 12 years to transit the whole zodiac, so you'll experience a Jupiter return at ages 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, and 84, and on, every 12 years. So these repeating cycles represent an ascending spiral of growth and personal development designed to bring you into greater self-knowledge. Jupiter represents the desire to expand, whether that expansion is outward in the form of personal achievement and the accumulation of things, relationships, and experiences, or inward in the form of self-knowledge, spiritual understanding, and philosophical insight. So these are some of the key words for Jupiter. Abundance, aspirations, the belief system. Because remember, this is ruling Sagittarius, all right? We'll get into it's a traditional rulership. I'll talk about that later. Okay, so belief system, chance, cheerful, cornucopia. I'm going to go count alphabetically, then come back. I'm going to give you both positive and negative too. Conceit, creative visualization, education, excess, of course, is Jupiter, big, expansiveness, extravagance. Let me get that out of the way. Sorry. Faith, fortune, future, gambling, generosity, grace, jovial, knowledge, largesse, lawlessness, luck, magnanimous, new horizons, optimism, opulence, philosophy, positive conscience, religion, ritual, seeker, self-improvement, study, success, travel, trust, truth, wastage, wealth, and wisdom. Some of the key words for Jupiter's expression are, now we can go creative expression or destructive expression, optimist or extremist, generous or wasteful, jovial or provocative, an expansive outlook or overlooks details, faith or overconfidence, openness to grace or laziness, desire for improvement or overextending the self, wise or hypocritical. All right, I'll get to the transits on the next one. All right, so let me show you now. Keep that in mind. Large, right? Big, higher mind, excess, new horizons, luck, self-improvement. Okay, so keep these kind of things. Generosity. Okay, keep that in your mind. Now, let me get you another one. Let's look at Saturn. All right, Saturn. Whee! Okay, Saturn's orbit at the visual boundary of the solar system has a 29 to 30-year cycle. It rules two signs, Capricorn and its traditional one as Aquarius. And then when we found newer planets, we just assigned them those other ones. So when we found Uranus, we designated that to rule Aquarius. But traditional, you know, or if you call me, I call people a Luddite, kind of use these as well. I use both rulerships. All right, so it rules two signs, Capricorn and Aquarius. But now you think about that, and this is really interesting because they're right next to each other. And remember, we've talked a lot about how one sign is almost the opposite as it is right next to each other. All right, so it shows its dual nature. In Capricorn, Saturn stands for the principle of order and boundaries in the material world, while in Aquarius, it represents order on the mental or spiritual level. So this is really interesting because this is going to be moving from Capricorn to Aquarius next month. All right, the Saturn glyph is the cross of matter above and the crescent moon of the soul above the, okay, the cross of matter above the crescent moon of the soul. Now, just draw that instead of that funny little thing, draw that cross like I had you do with Jupiter, and then put the moon on the bottom part. Okay, so you'll see that Jupiter expansive, right? The moon was above. Now you see that this sign, the moon is below, so that so we have the crescent moon of the soul representing the soul's incarnation in physical form, and it's below the cross of matter. So it's the work, it's the struggle, it's the structure, it's the physical. Okay. Now, this is also interesting here. It's also the alchemical symbol for lead, which is associated with the blackening of the great work, a stage of decay and putrefaction necessary for the process of transmutation. This is relevant to Saturn because he governs the timing of the individuation process as you grow into an individual. So this is interesting. Again, these esoteric symbols, just see that as the half moon of the soul, below that cross of matter. Okay, so that's what makes it a little bit like a cross to bear, right? Cross to carry. The Saturn cycle marks the natural development of your personality through various stages of mini deaths and rebirths, especially at the Saturn returns. It also forms a hard angle to each of your planets every 7 years as it moves around your chart in a pattern that's unique to you. So cycles within cycles, patterns, it's really about understanding this and trying to use this energy to the best of your ability. And I really think that this should be studied hard in school. This should be something everybody should learn about themselves, the world, the relationships, because it would make things a lot easier. Anyway, okay, so these transits are tests to keep you on the path and ensure that you're being true to yourself so you can become all that you're meant to be. The greatest mystery is how to take the limitations of matter and earthly existence and turn them into something more, something transcendent. See, turning that lead into gold, that true, what they were looking at is the alchemist's goal, right? You do this by taking responsibility for your fate or for the reality of your life, whatever time and change brings you. Saturn represents your need for structure, limitation, and security. So, okay, so yeah, you got to have a structure to live in. So we need structure. You can't have things willy-nilly and limitation, but anything can get too much, too much structure, too much limitation, too much security. This is some of the things that we're facing now in this day and age. This last year, we have totally locked down feeling the structure of Saturn, and I want to get into these, conjunctions that we've had. Maybe I have to do it in another session, but I want to really get you what the energies are, that we're dealing with. If you're going to go play a team, I'm going to tell you about the team. I got to give you, it's like, okay, we've got this person does that, and this one does this, and he's sharp, and she sucks, or she's good, and this one's bad. I got to tell you about these players, and then what they mean when they get together. So we found that Jupiter was expansive and optimistic and happy and jovial and maybe overlooks details. Saturn is different. All right, so as the reality principle, it stands for the workings of karma and necessity. It keeps you grounded in the material world through your relationship to time and the facts of existence, suffering, old age, and death. In the past, Saturn was known as the greater malefic and had a fearsome reputation, but perhaps he's been misunderstood. So keywords for Saturn, reality, contraction, and effort. Saturn represents how you establish the structure of your life and perseverance and preserve yourself through effort. So desire is represented by Saturn, the urge to be safe and secure through tangible achievement. Needs represented by Saturn, the need for social approval and rely on your own resources through work. All right, just wanted to put this, we're going to get into these. I might show you a little bit about these dignities, but the ruler, it rules Capricorn and Aquarius, excuse me. It's exalted in Libra. Its fall is in Aries and its detriments in Cancer. We will talk about all those, but I just want to mention it. So anyway, keywords for Saturn: ambition, authority figures, boundaries, career, caution, coldness, conservatism, consolidation, excuse me, contraction, control, cynicism, defensiveness, denial, destiny, duty, discipline, mastery, material security, negative conscience, negativity, old age, organization, patience, practicality, prudence, reality check, reliability, resilience, responsibility, self-restriction, seriousness, and shadow. Oh, here's more. Sorry. Effort, excellence, fear, inhibition, job, karma, law and order. Lead, limiting long-term plans. The skeleton or bones, status quo, strength, structure, testing, thrift, time, vocation, wisdom, and work. Quite different than Jupiter. Okay, so just get your head around this. I'm going to go look at that a little bit here. Get a few key ones in your mind. Interesting. Ambition, huh? Authority figure, boundaries, material security, practicalness, defensive, cynicism, responsibility, self-restriction. Look at this one, status quo. Limiting. All right, long-term plans. Okay. Keywords for Saturn's expression. Creative expression would be prudent, cautious, serious, practical, disciplined, acceptance of responsibility, reliable, patient. Any more? Okay. Destructive expression. So we have, instead of prudent, they're fearful. Cautious, they might be mean. Instead of serious, it'd be limited. Practical, be uninspired. Discipline would be too disciplined, rigidity. Acceptance of responsibility or lack of faith. Reliability, crippling inhibition. Patient or negativity. Okay. And one more. I think you can see that. Pluto. Okay, Pluto represents how you relate to the cycles of life and death and the presence of transformation. It's associated with the primordial instincts and the elemental forces of nature and power. Whether you are ready or not, Pluto confronts you with the necessity for regeneration and the evolution of your soul. Pluto is a dwarf planet and largest known ice dwarfs that orbit in the Kuiper belt beyond Neptune. It takes 248 years to cycle around the whole zodiac and spends between 11 and 32 years in each sign due to its highly elliptical orbit. Okay, so that's good to get. I want to slow that down a second. So 250 years, and it spends between 11 and 32 years in each sign because it's so elliptical. So the people that would have it in 32 years in a sign might that may drag on. It may suck, or it may be okay. I mean, it may have a good area of your chart, but can you imagine somebody that has like a grand cross or grand square, maybe in all cardinal signs, and then when it's going through, and if it's in that for 32 years, it's going to be a long time in those times, maybe making aspects to all of that, as opposed to speeding through something at a third of that, 11 years. So from 11, to 33, it's like a third less or 3 times more. So this is very, very interesting when I look at help somebody look at their chart, look at their natal chart, look at their progressed, look at the cycles. You got to do some planning. We can look and see how long things are going to be, when they're going to be in and out, how long they're going to be at on a certain aspect, actually hitting something. Makes a big difference when something's like that in your life. Okay, let's see. Neptune's path, let's say, it spends the shortest time in Scorpio when it's closest to the sun and the longest time in Taurus. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, along with Mars. The glyph is sometimes drawn as the monogram PL. I don't like that one. I do that when I'm lazy, but I like the alchemical symbol, just like the one for Neptune. It's saying it's like the one as Neptune, but with a circle in the center of the trident. I wish I would have grabbed. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Okay. So, so here's the circle, which is the sun, or the whole, or the unification, and then we have the half moon below it, above the cross of matter. All right. So let's see. Let's go look at this here. Okay, the glyph is sometimes blah, 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 blah. The circle. Okay, the circle represents the spirit hovering over the crescent of soul, above the cross of matter. Let me say it again so you can hear it. Let me say it so you can look at it. The circle represents the spirit. It's complete, right? The spirit is complete. So the spirit is hovering over the crest of the soul, hover over the crest of the soul, above the cross of matter. So this is transforming. You could just know this from the simples. This means transformation. This is like life and death, life or death, transformation, things coming from the depths up to, evolving. It's just like really looking at something, which is what we're going to see what this is all about. The crescent could also be a bident, like a pitchfork or trident with only 2 prongs, a symbol of power sometimes associated with Hades. As the higher octave of Mars, Pluto represents the life force operating on the subconscious level of the psyche. Mars shows you how to use your energy in the world, while Pluto is how your energy is used in the underworld, or the emotional depths of the soul. The emotional depths of the soul, how your energy is used. All right. Some of the archetypes associated with Pluto include death, fate, necessity, the great mother or dark feminine, the crone or wise woman, as well as shamans, witches, wizards, and the phoenix, rises from the ashes, right? Comes up. It also represents the archetypal expression of the descent into the underworld, which is really a descent into the soul in order to bring about regeneration and rebirth. Let's see how these are portrayed. All right. Pluto represents how you regenerate and experience death and rebirth. The essential keywords for Pluto are renewal, transformation, and evolution. Desires represented by Pluto, the urge to penetrate the depths of experience and experience renewal. Needs represented by Pluto, the need to evolve and let go of the old self. All right, Pluto, this is interesting. Rule Scorpio, its exalted is not yet known. Its detriment is always opposite the ruler. And then the exaltation is always opposite the fall, but those aren't determined yet. But anyway, Scorpio and its detriment in Taurus. That means its home is in Scorpio, and the detriment is its opposite. It doesn't like to be in its opposite. And exaltation means it's comfortable in somebody else's house. It's like you're home away from home. You feel comfortable at mom's house or something, kind of. But it's not your house, but it still feels okay. And then the fall is like you just don't feel comfortable there at all. It's like, I don't know what's worse, the detriment or the fall. We'll talk about that in another one. Anyway, keywords. Pluto. Abuse. Oh, man. Birth, death, rebirth. Collective shadow. Collective unconscious. This is definitely now. A lot of this. Compulsions. Cycle of life. Dark drives. Darkness. Death. Decay. Destruction. Elimination. Empowerment. Endings. Envy. Evolution. Evolve or die. Explosive. Fanaticism. Fearlessness. Hidden gifts. Higher octave of Mars, inner resources, intense, intolerance, jealousy, letting go of the old, manipulation, misuse of power, obsessions, pollution, potent force, power, psychoanalysis, radical change, rage, rebirth, regeneration, relentlessness. Did I say that right? Relentless. Relentless. Renewal. Repressed feelings. Resentment. Sex. Subtlety. Subversion. Survival instinct. Sustainability. Taboos. Transformation. Transmutation. Unconscious mind. Underworld. Violent. And volcanic. Each planetary principle can express positively in a creative way or negatively in a destructive way. Creative expression occurs when you're flowing in harmony with the soul's needs. Aspects to each planet will also color how they're expressed. Keywords for Pluto's expression: evolving versus enforced change. Regenerative versus violence. Rebirth versus destruction. Courage to face the darkness or avoiding of facing the self. Power focused on self-transformation or power complex and domination of others. Charismatic versus suspicious. All right, so now we have a little bit of keywords for these planets: Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. I'm just gonna let that sit just a second. So we have all those energies interacting. And I didn't put in the other outer planets because I didn't put in Neptune or Uranus right now because it's these three guys that we've been dealing with all year. So let me go back over to our chart right now, the transits. So now, what I want to share, and I'll probably do this a few times because this stuff is just key to where everybody's going. And sometimes things go along astrologically and then something huge happens. And there's cycles within cycles. It's like once you learn these cycles, and we'll talk about them specifically, they're well, let me just start in on one. These planets, because they're moving around the sun, right? You can, gosh, how can I explain it to you? You can imagine that there would be the slower planets. I should say the faster planets are going to lap the slower planets. So you've got a planet and it's moving around, it's buzzing around like that. And then you've got another one slower than it. And then it's going to finally come around and then they're going to meet up. So there's like these wheels within wheels. It's like, you remember those, oh God, what were those? Those spirograph things you would draw the little thing around and then it would, you would draw patterns. But anyway, they're patterns within patterns. And if you just think about, say Pluto, okay, we said it's 248 years to go all the way around. All right, so it's going at that speed. It's going all the way around. Just imagine it nice and slow going around. Now we're going to imagine something like Jupiter, which is 12 years and it goes around, right? So zip, 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 zip. So every now and then they're going to line up and they're going to be together and then they're going to move on. The same with all those other planets. There'll be times when they're going to line up and be together. They have their cycles. There's the Saturn-Jupiter cycle. There's the Saturn-Pluto cycle. There's the Jupiter-Pluto cycle. All right, all of these are cycles within cycles. But right now, several of them have lined up. And 3 of them have lined up. And we have not ever seen this. David Palmer, the Leo King, did a video, the Battle of the Gods. And it's on High Vibe TV. I'd recommend that to everybody. Amazing. It's like a 4-hour video. He goes into the history. He goes back when all of these cycles were. So he took like just one cycle and he'd go back and he'd tell you what in history was happening. And then he'd take another cycle of planets, take that back. Took all these back in time and showed you when they, what was happening. But it's unprecedented now because they're all 3, these 3 have lined up. This has never happened that he could find. I mean, we went way back, went before Christ, as much as we could look. So this Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn are all lined up in Capricorn. Okay, they can line up in other signs, but the fact that they're all lined up right there is just phenomenal. So they've been doing this dance since January. January 12th of this year, we had the sun. In fact, let me just show it to you. File. Let me make a new natal. I'm going to call it. Well, actually, this is kind of small for me to. I'll just tell you. It'll take too much time. Just get rid of that. Cancel that. Anyway, The Sun, Mercury, you see Saturn and Pluto were all at 22 degrees. All right. Mercury is never very far from the sun. We know that it's right there. So they were both at 22 degrees. Mercury and the sun at 22 degrees, and Saturn at 22 degrees, and Pluto at 22 degrees. So Saturn, you had their first conjunction of Saturn and Pluto at that time. Then in April, then we had Jupiter conjunct Pluto. Okay, so now they've got another, these two conjuncted, and they were at 24 degrees Capricorn. Okay, so anybody's got anything in these later degrees are going to be definitely affected. So this was the first one. And this coincided again with what they called us our first lockdown. Okay, Jupiter conjunct Pluto. All right, actually, let me go back. Let me talk about this one. Let me talk about this cycle. I'm going to walk you through a little bit while you're looking at this. This is just right now, but you can imagine these. So we had the Sun and Mercury right there. Okay, so it's right there with communications. And then we had Saturn and Pluto right there. So we just learned Saturn, maybe limitations, Pluto, death, rebirth, structure, transformation, and then the Sun and Mercury. So we had news about something that would be transformative and limiting. That was when we first started to talk about this stupid virus stuff, this COVID hoax, this pandemic. And this was all, this was all been planned for years before this was I don't want to go into all the data behind it, but that was there. All right. Then we come up to Jupiter conjunct Pluto. Okay, so that was in April, 4th of April. So that was when the official lockdowns actually started to happen. So big, okay, Jupiter, and another one with Pluto, transformations, death, rebirth. Think of all those, all of that kind of icky stuff there. So it was big transformations, big, affected people all over the globe on that one. And then June, okay, things shift around and moved a little bit. Saturn moved out of Capricorn and it moved into Aquarius. We had a little reprieve of that. Saturn did that in April. It moved, so it moved away from that stuff a little bit. Then it went retrograde later, but it got a little taste of it there. Okay, but so then June, it retrograded and hit again. So Jupiter did it went retrograde, and then it hit it again in June, and then it did its final hit just a few days ago. You can see here, look, it just passed it. So here we go, transit on the 12th. So Saturn passed it. Here's Jupiter. Now Jupiter, they're going to, I say here it is. Well, let me talk about Saturn in a minute. Jupiter passed Pluto. Look at this, 22 degrees, Pluto. And then Jupiter just passed it. Okay, today is the 17th. And on the 12th, it was right there at that dang 22 degrees. Look at that. It was right lined up in it, and it passed it on the 12th, which was last Thursday. And now it's gaining speed. Look at Jupiter is gaining speed now, and in about 3 weeks, no, a little bit more than that, about 4, maybe 5 weeks, on the 21st of December, it's going to then be over Saturn. Jupiter will be right on Saturn, but they will both be at 0 degrees Aquarius by the time that happens. Oh, let me just show you. I'm going to just do another chart. Let's see, file, add new natal. I'm just going to call it transit. Just have to give it some name. 12, 21. Just can't do it like that. Hold on. 12. I could do it that way. December 21, 2020. And we'll just do I'll just do Gainesville. Come on. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Just want to get somewhere. Save. Okay, done now. All right, this will be here. Now look at Saturn and Jupiter, 0 degrees, 30 minutes. Look at there, conjunction right there. Now they've moved into a fixed sign. Interesting, and they're going to be traveling this conjunction. This is one of the things I want to impress on you today, and I think I want to go deeper into it on our next class. These transits are going to be with us for quite some time. Look at this. This has been going on all year, this dance of this expansive limitations, or large limitations. What I'm trying to think of some of our key words for these two planets. We had maybe structure, maybe unlimited, or I should say structure, or large structures, large limitations. Those are definitely, we got large, we got the expansiveness, but then we got limitation or boundaries. We've got big boundaries. We've got freedom versus lockdown. And this again, we saw it. This is a big theme. We saw this in Capricorn all year, and now this conjunction is traveling forward it's keeping this tight conjunction, and it's moving into the next sign. This is crazy. So this is very, very interesting of the times that we're in now. Look at here. This Pluto, they've both gotten off of the Pluto, but they both had their dance with Pluto. They both had the tangle with Pluto all year. All right. Now they're both moving on. Remember, we talked about these cycles of how the planets move. They're continually moving, and you have to just remember their speeds. Pluto is the longest. Remember we said 248 years for it to travel around, and it's going to be 11 to 32 years in a sign. Jupiter, the fastest one, it's a year in a sign, 1 year. Saturn is like 2.5 years in a sign. So we got these cycles. To get in your head, I want to drill in a little bit more about how these cycles are. They're like things spinning, and you got like something spinning real fast and something going around it, So this is happening all the time. But every so often you get these things lining up. And if you want to think about it, it's like gravitational pull, the force of the big moving bodies in space. I mean, you got Jupiter, and if it's in alignment, on that ecliptic plane, it's a big body, and it's going to pull a lot of weight. If you've got things like in that side, you can see how it's going to affect us. All right, now I want to give you one more thing. Look at aspects today. I want you to see this aspect meanings. All right, so now that I've got a few thoroughly stuffing your head with a lot of astro babble, but this is important. We'll sort it out again. I want to give you these concepts of these big players. Now, the aspects are going to denote how they interplay with each other. Okay, so the role of aspects. Let me just go over here. The conjunction. Okay, this is the two. When it's right next to each other, okay, it is a combination of two motivations merged that cannot act without the other. Together, they create a unified and powerful force. The qualities of the planet involve work well together, get along with each other. It can be a great aspect full of potential for high energy and action, but if the planets don't get along so well, it can bring heavier or more challenging vibes. Then being trapped in a small cosmic space together can create some discord or amplify their dark fields. Sometimes it's just like being with somebody that's just like you for too long. It's like, I gotta get away from myself. It could just be just like, too much. Conjunction, it's just like on you. All right, sextile. I'm going to go with the major ones here first. This would be 2 signs away, or 60 degrees, the sextile. Stimulating aspect that indicates talents and opportunities. The planets would be, if they're sextile, that they're definitely incompatible elements, unless it's out of orb or something. Sometimes it could be, you know, technically, but these 2 planets are harmonious and blend easily. They feed off each other, encourage each other. This easy aspect is fun, full of good vibes, and undoubtedly positive. It's friendly, flirty. Say that they're usually like between fire and air, or earth and water signs, you know, positive, positive, or negative, negative, or I should say male, male, female, female, however you want to say it. It's like the sun is shining, the birds are chirping, the situations are at hand happy. It's nice break from the stress that other transits can bring, and can offer us a nice opportunity to chill. The only downside to the sextile aspect is that it's not the most action oriented, so don't expect it to bring energy for major shifts. The energy of planets forming sextile is usually easy and compatible, so it doesn't tend to bring much drama to a situation. Okay, so think of that like not only in your own chart, but right now. Okay, so right now we've got some really intense conjunctions, and then we've got these other planets making some squares or tension to this. Trine. The trine occurs when the planets are 120 degrees. It's nice. They're in the same element. There's a smooth flow of energy. However, there is a downside. Trines are lazy and don't stimulate action. Once again, the Sun, Mercury, and Venus will never form a trine to one another in a natal chart, because they are never 120 degrees apart. Sun and Mercury, we already know Sun and Mercury is right next to the Sun. Mercury is right next to the Sun, and Venus is never that far. Okay, so it can only go square. It'll never go a trine or opposition from the Sun. Trines form a 120 degree angle are generally considered the best and most auspicious aspect of them all, bringing luck, harmony, and major synchronicity and potential for positive change, because it's the same element. Fire, 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 or earth, earth, earth. It's all get along. They understand each other. A trine occurs when the planets are in the same element. Okay, trines are positive aspects that produce a positive outcome. The only issue is that they can be a little lazy in achieving their goals. The easy like Sunday morning good vibes only flow of a trine can sometimes result in our energy being a little too at ease. So the biggest mistakes we can make with a trine is simply not taking enough initiative because we're too busy basking in the glow of good vibes. So trines give you relief from the squares, conjunctions, and oppositions. But you need the squares to get things done, or to be a doer, or to have stuff in your life, or to put structure in. People that don't, I think we went over some of this before, that don't have any squares in their chart. Sometimes they don't have any ambition. Trines are to be taken advantage of, not slept on. So don't let these auspicious cosmic moments slip through your fingers. Squares are in the same mode. So they're cardinal, or they're fixed, or they're mutable. Okay, squares generate tension and stimulate action. Okay, generate tension and stimulate action that pushes an individual to create and manifest. Square aspects are considered challenging because they indicate blockages and obstacles in life. However, they also show strength and the ability to persevere difficulties. The Sun, Mercury, and Venus never form a square to one another in a natal chart because they are never 90 degrees apart. Get ready for a little bit of cosmic drama, because just like the shape itself, a square aspect is chock full of hard angles and sharp corners, so caution is advised. A square is an intense aspect, which often indicates action. Contrary to their reputation, squares are not necessarily bad. They just show that work will be involved in producing the favored outcome. It's not like you have a silver spoon in your mouth with this one. Considered one of the decidedly hard aspects, a 90 degrees, a square is bound to produce tension between the involved planet energies. But a little tension can be helpful sometimes. This aspect simply illuminates a stressful situation that can be resolved with compromise and effort. By putting in the work and resisting the urge to be stubborn, the square can be an opportunity to find a resolution to an issue. even if it's challenging to do so. And then an opposition, which you guess is when the planets are opposite one another, and they will be again at that opposite opposing axis. So, you know, you'll find it butting heads, opposing views, duality, or looking at it from another position, another point of view, the other side of it. But it's usually, if they can agree to be different, then that's a good thing. With the whole zodiac between two opposing planets, they're as far apart in the chart as can be. And because two types of energy feel so distant and foreign to one another, this aspect can make it difficult for them to come together harmoniously. Their wants, needs, and ideas may feel as polar as their placement. Well, you got summer, winter, right? That said, it's not all bad. Opposites attract, remember? So it's like, you know, you're tired of summer. I want winter. I want that cold. You know, love that. So by seeking a balance between the planet's energies and trying to work symbiotically, there's a potential for us to make an opposition run smoothly. All right, the other couple I'm going to mention, and I'll just show you the other ones briefly. The inconjunct or quincunx, they're 150 degrees apart, and they involve the things I said that have nothing in common, both this one and the semi-sextile as well. So different elements, different modalities, different polarities. They have nothing in common. It's a bend or break sort of aspect that requires adjustment. It's considered a hard aspect, meaning it brings challenges that are character building. A birth chart with more than two in quincunxes or inconjunct indicates a very determined individual. We could talk about that in some of the aspect patterns. What else am I going to tell you about that? This one. It would be like you're sitting at a bar next to a person, you don't speak their language. So you go, hello? you try to take it. First you go like, you know, you're going to adopt the accent, you know, like whatever they are, you know, for some reason, you know, or whatever, you know, to say they're French. Hello? You don't think that's going to help. You try to find something on your phone, maybe you have to say something in French, you know, and it's not working real good. And they try to maybe say something in English, and then they're really good. He goes, do you have kids? No, I hate kids. Do you have pets? No, I hate animals. You know, it's just like back and forth, nothing. You know, it's like nothing common, you know, so can't talk, can't speak really well. It's hard anyway to communicate, and then you can't find anything in common. So that's what that inconjunct is like. So you're sitting there trying to just, well, just got to kind of be okay with it. It's like, well, I guess we're here at this bar together, just being here. Okay, cool. Well, I didn't really want to be here to begin with. You know, it's like, oh no. Okay, so the semi-sextile, it's similar, but they're just one sign apart. So there's nothing in common, but they're still like in the same season. Okay, so there's an uncomfortable feel to it, and then the fair amount of work is needed to get them to work together. I say it's kind of like they're sort of tolerating each other. They're aware of each other. It's like your neighbor. There we go. So a semi-sextile would kind of be like your neighbor. They're close, but you really don't, I mean, unless they're an awesome neighbor or you move there together or something like that, usually you don't have much in common with your neighbor, you know, but you're there kind of sharing the space, right? Okay. Then there's a couple more. The semi-square, which is 45 degrees. That's half of a square. And it can be moderately difficult and create tension. It can create self-doubt related to the planet signs and house it's involved. Some might say it's a trouble in the making aspect. And I like to look at these, well, I like to look at them in the natal chart and in what's coming up for people. And then the other one is called the semi-square, sesquisquare, sesquisquare. Okay, so we're going to take the 90 degrees and add that bit that we put off on the other. So if we cut that 90 in half, we would have the 45. If we add that 45 back to the 90, you know, just add that the other way, then we have the bigger. Does that make sense? Okay, so we had the square 90, and we're going to cut it in half, take 45 off, and that makes the semi-square. Now, if we take that 90 and we add that 45, that makes this square. So that's 135 degrees. It's another weird kind of odd placement, but I'll show you why it's significant in a second. Planets in this aspect can needle, push, and annoy one another because they have a hard time seeing and understanding the other. So check this out. I think we've divided the circle. We went through one of these on the aspects, and we divided the circle by all of these numbers and to get these orbs. And that's where some of them are easier than others. See, so like if we divide the circle by 2, then it's 180, right? And if we do it by 3, that's 120. So there's, you know, the 180, there's just, you know, one side and then the other. And then if you divide by 3, then there's 3 trines, right? 320 degrees. Then there's 4 90s, because this is all dividing the 360 by each number. We divide it by 5, we got the 72, or the quintile. Divided by 6, we got the sextile. Divided by 7, we got the 51 degrees, 26 minutes. And that's an interesting one. That's like getting close to what the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza is, 51 degrees. Divided by 8, we got the 45. See, there's a semi-square right there. Divided by 9, it's called the nonile. Divided by 10, that's 36, a decile. And then by 12, we got the semi-sextile. So, was that all I wanted? This was just some, okay, so here's some keywords for this. So conjunction, let me go over this and then we'll be done with this. It adds a heavy emphasis for their forces or combined strengths. And it's intense. I think it's just intense, okay? It could be pleasant or unpleasant depending on what's involved and how long it's there. Trine is harmony, ease of expression, but it can lead to inertia, laziness, automatic benefits with even greater reward or than when effort's applied. Sextile, opportunities for help, harmony, ease between energies, but effort is definitely required for the benefit and awareness. The semi-sextile, slight ease, opportunity, resources, opposition, difficult from outside forces, requires a compromise, shows alternatives, leads to growth through awareness. The square, apparently irreconcilable desires which may lead to going around in circles, struggles leading to action, must learn to satisfy both urges or give up one. Semi-square, 45, strain, conflict, necessitating action. Says the quadrate, the challenges, friction leading to action. Quincunx, or the inconjunct, psychological challenge, unconscious pattern of scattered energies, something left incomplete requiring adjustment or compromise or bridging. Okay, one other thing. Aspects seem to operate more intensely as they are coming to the point of exactness, called applying, more than they have after they have been exact and are moving apart or separating. For instance, the square aspect is exact at 90, right? So if 2 planets are 87 degrees apart, the square is applying. It's almost there. Its tension's building. And then if they are 93 degrees apart, the square is separating. It's done. It's like the orgasm's over. You know, it's not, doesn't have that tension as it's at the 87. So always look at the faster planet in relation to the slower one. The planets are generally faster the closer they are to the sun. We know those orders, except when it goes retrograde motion. So, is that all on that one? Yeah, okay, so that's all on that one. And let me just get back to here. Did I get back to that? Stop share. There we go. Okay. All right, so we've gone through quite a bit. Those aspects are really, really key as you look at those planets. So what I want to leave you with is think about those planets. Okay, we saw those energies, and nothing is good or bad. It's just, it's like, so we can take energy of one, energy of the other. So say Jupiter. We have that expansiveness, and then we have, say, Saturn. We have the limitations. But it depends on the aspect that they're in, how they're going to relate to each other. If they're in conjunction, that's going to be one way that they're going to interact. If they're opposing, it's going to be another way they're going to react to each other. If they're going to be trining each other, it's going to be another way. If they're sextile, it's going to be another way. So we can see how this is going to play out. You know, we look at the sign that it's in, and then we look at the aspect to see, oh, is this a good recipe or not? You know, does that sound good? Do I want this? Is this on the menu? It's like, well, or not. So we've got a few ways of dicing this all up. We got the energies of the planets in the sign. So we got that flavor. It's like, I know what this cake is like, okay? And I know what this cake is like. Are they gonna be good together? You know, I got chocolate, I got peanut butter. Are they gonna be good together? Yum. Or not. All right, so we went through a lot today, and I want to continue on with the themes of these planets as they're in their cycles and their dance. And now that we know that, next time we're going to get into some more of the meat on those cycles and time, and then what they really mean for us as a collective, and how that's going to affect us as well as in your own chart. I mean, we have it collectively, what's going on right now, but then you have it in your own chart, in your natal chart, and in your progress chart. You know, the progression is how everything is moving, where you're moving toward. And in the future, how all of this dance is playing out, and to understand these astrological cycles, and to go study history in the past and see what effects that they have now in the future. So again, if you haven't seen the David Palmer, he's the Leo King on High Vibe TV. It's the Battle of the Gods. It's excellent. It would be really worth the watch. And let's see who else is worth watching. Steve Levine, another astrologer. He has monthly updates, cosmic quickies also, which are very good. Most of those are on YouTube. All right, hope that you've enjoyed this, and think, what is Rick Levine? So it's Rick Levine, not Steve Levine. Rick Levine, yeah, sorry. Think cosmically and act locally. All right. Bye, y'all. See you next time.